They say every rose has its thorn. But in this pack, the thorns were sharper than I ever imagined. 9. The Garden of Eden Friday came by quickly. The Alpha's guest left the day before. Even before I woke up, I had no idea who it was, but I heard rumors it was a beta from a pack close by. I spent the rest of the day doing the same things. Annoyingly, I was creating a boring pattern. On the day of Eden's arrival, everyone woke up early. The staff here got up at the crack of dawn and began brightening the place up. After showering and changing, I headed downstairs and saw numerous pack members hanging balloons on the walls. They were all so busy they didn't even notice me. I ate alone as usual, with a book by my side. I had read it before, but I enjoyed it enough to reread it. Sabrina caught my eye at the end of the dining hall, ordering her mate and the beta around. I arched an eyebrow at the sight, perplexed. She wasn't the same rank as Beta Blade, so why was he allowing her to boss him around? The banner nearly fell, causing Sabrina to shriek at them with a pissed-off expression planted on her face. She looked like a force to be reckoned with. My morning flew by. I translated more of the book, had lunch in the dining hall by myself, and ventured out for a walk. I didn't sense anyone following me. To my utter relief, the walk was peaceful. I wasn't interrupted by a single glare since there was nobody around. All the pack members were helping decorate the house for Eden. When I returned to the house, there were people everywhere, rushing around. A large happy birthday sign had been nailed over the stairs so that as soon as she stepped in, she would be greeted with it. I squeezed past everyone and headed upstairs. It looked like I would be hiding out in my room again. Alpha Gabriel hadn't told me to stay in my room, but I figured I should since this was a major pack arrival. I didn't want to spoil it. Plus, I wasn't a member of my pack. It would be like I was intruding. I remained in my room for the rest of the afternoon and the early evening. When Carrie didn't come up for food, I began to worry if she had forgotten about me. I hadn't heard any noise down below, so I assumed Eden hadn't arrived yet. At precisely 7:30, a car rolled up to a stop in front of the house. Hesitantly, I sneaked over to my window and peered out of it. Down below, all the pack members were gathered around the car, bouncing on the balls of their feet with joy. The black car's door swung open and a long, dark-skinned leg stepped out. With bated breath, I watched the woman graciously step out and stand to her tall height. She had black, frizzy hair that cascaded down her back. I could barely make out the features from the window, but I could tell she had sharp, electric features. The outfit she wore was elegant and formal. The pack cheered in excitement, each of them radiating with pure happiness. They all flocked around Eden, shouting happy birthday to her. My eyes drifted to the back of the crowd, where Alpha Gabriel was stood with his arms crossed over his chest. His face remained stoic, not giving away anything. Sensing eyes on him, his blue eyes scoured the area and then gazed upwards to my window. I didn't move, even though I should. My eyes challenged his own. We had both been so absorbed in our shared look that he missed Eden approaching him with a sultry expression on her face. Even I felt how she sparked up at the sight of him. When they were inches apart, I had to step back and turn away. I didn't want to see their reunion. I was worried it would hurt my heart too much. Sighing sadly, I collapsed onto my bed and stared at my white ceiling, willing myself not to think about the two of them. Eden was, naturally, to my aged extraordinaire, Madeleine Noble. Heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm. I might have been at the top of the building, but I had better eyesight than humans, and I didn't need an eye doctor to tell me she was stunning. All werewolves were. However, a rare few were spectacular. These were usually children of higher-ranked wolves. I recalled hearing chatter from the pack a few days ago, when they first found out about her visit. Somebody said she was the head warrior's daughter. It made her an even better candidate for the lunar position. She was beautiful, smart since she attended human college, and strong. All of those attributes gave her a boost over any other woman wishing to mate with the Alpha. To add to the never-ending pro list, she used to be close friends with Alpha Gabriel. She probably still was. If he did change his mind, she would be the person he went to. Unless, to my agent extraordinaire, Madeleine Noban, heartfelt thanks for your unfailing Chrishut's enthusiasm. He met his mate. I hated these thoughts. They plagued me for reasons I didn't understand. My attraction towards Alpha Gabriel shouldn't make me think about him constantly. This felt like something more than a mere crush. The sooner I finish translating the book, the better. I can get out of this pack and forget about him. I needed to leave, as soon as possible. My eyes started to droop and my body sank further into the comfortable bed. I didn't bother fighting the tiredness that seeped into my bones. Sleeping would distract me. The last thing I saw behind my eyelids was a pair of piercing blue eyes. Liberty. Somebody shook my shoulder. Gently. Groaning, I rolled onto my other side, hoping they would leave me alone. I was enjoying my nap. I didn't want to wake up now. Liberty. Wake up. They continued to try and wake me up, throwing a pillow over my head. I hoped they would get the message and leave. They didn't. The person threw the pillow away and then chucked a glass of ice, cold water, at my face. Yes, you heard that right. They actually did that. Yelping, I snapped my eyes open and wiped away the water. My body jolted upright and I faced Alpha Gabriel furiously. Alpha or not, I did not appreciate him waking me up like that. Why was he even here? Wasn't he supposed to be at the party? What do you think you're doing? I shrieked at him, my voice reaching octaves I had never heard before. My eyes were narrowed at him. He was standing at the front of my bed now, with a nonchalant expression on his tanned face. He didn't seem affected by my shrieking at all. You haven't had tea, he stated as if that would answer my questions. Shuffling off my bed, I folded my arms around my middle, hoping to keep warm. It was warm outside, but after that cold water, I felt chilly. Yeah, I was waiting for somebody to come up and bring me something. I mumbled, avoiding eye contact with him. You're supposed to come down to the dining hall. Remember, he reminded me, raising my eyes to his. I noticed something swirling in his eyes. I thought it was concern, but why? That made no sense. But you have a guest. The other day I had to have my food here when you had a guest, so I assumed I would have to eat here today as well. I spluttered. Lost? I don't want to intrude on your pack celebration. A small crease formed in between his bushy brows. Once again, I wondered what was going through his head. Never had I wanted to unpick somebody's brain like with Alpha Gabriel. I usually read people's emotions to conclude what they were feeling, but with him, I couldn't. I had to rely on his words. Wednesday was different. Eden is a part of our pack. She knows about you, he explained. So I had to go downstairs and meet the woman who everyone hoped would become the Luna. I couldn't say no to the Alpha. It would cause an argument neither of us wanted. I doubted I would win it. Fine. I relented, reluctantly. I'll leave you to change. Casting a fleeting look at me before exiting my room, rubbing my eyes, I forced myself to get up and find something appropriate to wear. I was attending a party, alas not a royal one, but a party nonetheless. Thus, I had to put some effort into my outfit, skimming the little clothes I had in the wardrobe. I chose a jade green dress that matched my eyes. It wasn't too short, brushing against the tops of my knees. As for my hair, I combed a brush through it, struggling to get the tangles out. I let it flow down my back loosely. I didn't bother to put makeup on, fearing if I took too long, Aloha Gabriel would return and escort me out of the room. Knowing I looked decent, I left my room and strolled down the stairs. The party was located in the dining hall. The tables had been removed, aside from a few that were used for snacks. Loud music penetrated my ears, making the walls vibrate. A dance floor had been created in the center of the hall. People of all ages swayed to the music, without a care in the world. Alpha Gabriel was nowhere in sight. As for Sabrina, I spotted her with Beta Blade and her mate, Gamma Gomez. They sat on one of the circular tables, animatedly talking with Eden. She looked even more stunning if that was possible. Dragging my gaze away from her, I found a table filled with food and approached it. Nellie was behind it, serving food to wolves. When her eyes landed on me, they beamed. She was one of the few people who actually liked my presence. "This is very lively," I said to her, scanning the crowd with vague interest. Compared to the formal parties I was used to, this was like a riot. "We're all very happy Eden is back," she chirped back, shifting her gaze to the pretty girl. "You should introduce yourself. I'm sure she'll be interested to talk to you." I looked at her skeptically. I highly doubted that. She would probably react to me like the rest of the pack. "I'm good. I'll just eat something and go back upstairs." I smiled at her, tensely. The food was delicious. I ate it in a dark corner, away from prying eyes. Eden made her way through the pack, laughing along with her peers. She was like an angel sent down from heaven. They all stared at her like she was a messiah. Alpha Gabriel was sat with Beta Blade, talking intensely. Once I finished, I exited the room, leaving the pounding music behind, and stepped outside for a breath of fresh air. It was calm and tranquil. The dark sky was littered with shining stars, reminding me of home. When I was young, I used to stand on my balcony and gaze at them for hours. My mother would find me in the wee hours of the morning and scold me for staying up so late. A sad smile manifested on my face, causing a harsh lump to form in my throat. I missed my family so much. Yet, I stayed here, hiding from an evil man who wanted to destroy my happiness. Seeking temporary comfort, I made my way over to the garden I had been fixing earlier and picked up a dead flower. Lights from the house filtered into the garden, allowing me to see the whole expanse. "What are you doing in my garden?" a woman's voice queried from behind me, spinning around rapidly. I came face to face with the woman I had been avoiding all night. Eden stood there in all her grace and glory with a frown marring her smooth skin. Now that I was closer to her, I could really see every gorgeous detail of her. She had dark brown eyes that were fanned by her long lashes. Her face was sharp and precise, unlike my more softened and feminine features. She was skinny, yet her bare arms were defined by muscles. "I wanted some air," I answered, straightening my back. "Why are you out here? You're missing your party." Instead of getting defensive with me, she chuckled and rolled her eyes. It was getting overwhelming in there. I wanted space. I was shocked to hear that she wanted to leave, voluntarily. I thought she was lapping up the attention that was being given to her. "This is your garden, then?" I changed the subject, averting my eyes to the plants. She stepped forward softly on the grass, loosening a breath. Her body relaxed and a content smile stretched onto her plump lips. "Yes, the former Alpha gave it to me after my mother passed away," she informed me, her voice never wavering. A distant look glinted in her eyes, a trapped memory she hadn't thought of in a long time. Silence ensued. "To my agent extraordinaire, Madeleine Noben, heartfelt thanks for your unfading pursuits, enthusiasm." Painful silence. I wanted to hate her, which in retrospect was extremely stupid. I had no moral or rational reason to hate her. She appeared to be nice and compassionate. She certainly cared for her pack, making her a great Luna candidate. "They told me you are going to be here for a while," she murmured, interest swirling in her eyes. "Yeah, that's right. I'm translating a book for the Alpha," I elaborated, softly. "You know, it's strange. Alpha Gabriel is very protective of the pack. He never lets visitors stay," she mused, crossing her arms over her chest. "Yet for some odd, strange reason, he trusts you enough to let you stay and roam around the pack." I didn't know what to say. She was raising a good point. Sabrina made the same point not too long ago, but she didn't press it. She simply stated the fact and then moved on. With Eden, it felt like she was inquiring for some ulterior reason. She didn't trust me, and quite possibly, she didn't want me here. "It is curious." I agreed with her. "I don't know why he's letting me stay here, though. Perhaps he's desperate to find out what's in the book." She hummed, not entirely convinced with my suggestion but going along with it. At least, I had a sneaky suspicion she would be on my case again. Perhaps, she remarked, casually. She then inhaled and spun around to face me fully. I should get back. I don't want everyone thinking I ditched them. Have a good evening. She moved past me, brushing her shoulder against mine, and wandered back into the house. The bright moon glowed down on me. It felt reviving standing under it, embracing its glorious light. A rustling noise attracted my attention. Snapping my head in that direction, I searched the dark abyss ahead of me for any signs of life. That feeling, an unnerving feeling, fluttered in my chest. I was being watched. Till I have my eyes on you, nerves seized my body. Somebody was outside with me, watching me, waiting. I swallowed the lump in my throat nervously and slowly stepped forward. My eyes scoured the area, searching for any signs of life. Glowing eyes locked onto mine. They were situated in the forest, next to a tree. I couldn't take my eyes away, no matter how much I wanted to. They had me under their spell. Whose eyes were they? Was this just some wild creature or was it a wolf? But then again, why would a wolf be out here? There was a party inside, so why would a wolf be out here? The animal treaded forward and came into view. As I suspected, it was a wolf. To my agent extraordinaire, mythical, heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm. Dark-haired wolf with piercing eyes and an intimidating aura. There was only one person around here with an aura like that Alpha Gabriel. Could it really be him? If it was, then why was he out here? Surely, he should be inside, celebrating Ian's return. To my agent extraordinaire, mythical, heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm. She could be his Luna. His wolf did nothing but stare at me. Most would find it alarming and would probably run for the hills, but I didn't. Strangely, I didn't feel worried that he was in wolf form. Outside, late at night, there were those thoughts again. Why was I so sure Alpha Gabriel wouldn't hurt me? He didn't tell me anything. He could try and kill me anytime he wanted to. Neither of us made a move. We both continued to share eye contact, refusing to back down. His eyes were so alluring. I could stare into them all day if I wanted to. They captured all of my attention and forced me to stare into their endless depths. I was in a trance and couldn't climb my way out of it, no matter how hard I tried. Why did I feel these things for him? What was happening to me? Abruptly, Alpha Gabriel shook his face and stepped back. His body became hidden by the large tree. The only thing I could make out was his eyes. He spared me one last look and then disappeared into the darkness, leaving me basking in the moonlight. How peculiar. I would have thought Alpha Gabriel would have been inside. Then again, he did strike me as the type of person who avoided parties at all costs. He barely spoke, and when he did, he was always serious. It wasn't in his nature to let loose and have fun. All alphas were like that. They had to be uptight and wary. Otherwise, they wouldn't be able to lead a good, strong pack. I headed back upstairs and into bed. I needed to peel off this outfit and lie in bed. On my way upstairs, I passed Carrie. She was sat at the top of the stairs, wearing a faded pink dress. Her eyes were bloodshot from crying and her hair was a clump of a mess. To my agent extraordinaire, mythical, heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm. She looked like she had been dragged through hell and back. To my agent extraordinaire, mythical, heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm. Standing directly in front of her, hesitantly, she lifted her tear-stained face up and released a broken sob. I immediately hurried over to her and embraced her in a comforting hug. My left arm wrapped around her shoulders whilst my other hand petted her head. She buried her face into my chest to let all of the pent-up emotions flow out of her. Over the thumping music, I could only hear her choked sobs. I never asked her what was wrong. I simply spoke reassuring words to her in a soft, gentle voice. We remained like this for a while. until her sobs turned into sniffles and her tears had left a damp patch on my clothing. I'm sorry, she apologized, pulling away from me. I don't know what happened. You were upset, I assured her, forcing myself to send her a small smile. Carrie furrowed her large brows together and wiped her snotty nose. Why are you being so nice to me? I don't deserve your help. I shrugged my shoulders and tucked a loose strand of her black hair behind her ear. She had a point. Anybody else would have walked away. If I was in this state, nobody would be comforting me. Nobody here, at least. Yet here I am, doing it for her. He needs somebody right now, and I happen to be the first person to walk up these stairs. I answered, casually, despite your doubts. I'm a good person. If I see somebody who needs help, I will help them. I'm not cruel or sadistic. She remained quiet, listening to me intently. And I like you. We might not have had the best start, but we're working on it. Right. If I didn't help you now, you would hate me, and our last serious talk would have meant nothing. I added, softly. Carrie considered my words, taking them to heart. I wondered if I made her realize I was not who she pegged me out to be. It would be nice to have somebody here think I had no intentions. Why do you make hating you feel so hard? She blurted out and blinked rapidly in shock when she registered that she said it aloud. Instead of feeling offended, which I should have done, I let out a bark of laughter. I'm just too likable, I guess, I retorted. She snorted and wiped away another tear. That's definitely not it. Shaking my head in disbelief. Whatever you say. I then paused and took in her anguished form. She looked hopeless. So, do you want to talk about it? She shook her head, pressing her lips together firmly. No, I don't. I nodded my head, understanding. To my agent extraordinaire, Madeleine Noble, heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm. Well, do you mind if I sit here with you for a bit? Carrie shrugged her shoulders and sniffled. I took that as a yes. Neither of us said anything. She continued to cry next to me, never seeking any physical comfort. The music downstairs was still extremely loud. Every once in a while, somebody would exit the main room, swaying on their feet, and would take one glance at us and then disappear. Nobody tried to get past us. It was like they avoided coming up these stairs because they didn't want to acknowledge Carrie's emotional state. I suddenly felt very sympathetic towards her. Sure, she wasn't the nicest person, at least. Not to me, but she didn't deserve this treatment. Did she not have a single person to rely on? Whenever I was upset, I always sought comfort from one of my brothers. We would snuggle up together and watch crappy movies. It appeared if Carrie did have anyone, they weren't coming to her rescue today. I think I'm going to go back to my room, Carrie eventually said. Her cheeks were smudged with mascara and her eyes were bloodshot from all of the crying. Do you want me to help you? Softly. I didn't mind helping her. I wanted to get away from this area and go to bed myself. My head was banging from the thunderous music and screaming. This party wasn't for me. She glanced at me, her dark eyes closed off. I was curious to know what set her off. She seemed so detached from everything. Whatever or whoever upset her had really done a number on her. Something bad must have happened. No, I'll be fine, she assured me, her voice stronger this time. Slowly, she rose to her feet, using the railing for support. When she was her full height, she picked up a clump of her puffy dress and addressed me one more time. Thank you for helping me. I appreciate it. You're welcome. She sent me a parting look and disappeared down one of the many halls. I left shortly afterward. When I got back to my room, I scrubbed off my make-up and shrugged my dress off. After slipping on some comfortable pajamas, I collapsed into my bed and let sleep invade me. When I woke the following morning, Carrie came to me. She appeared less upset. Her emotionless face was what greeted me. Without asking me, she stepped into my room and closed the door behind her. I sat up in my chair and gave her my full attention. About last night, she trailed off, maintaining eye contact with me. Her dark eyes were empty, To my agent extraordinaire, mythical, heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm. I want you to know that I was having a bad day. That's all. Nothing bad happened to me. I cocked my head to the side. Skeptically, I was fairly certain something dreadful happened to her. However, it wasn't my place to question her and demand the truth. If she wanted to confide in me, then I would be willing to listen. If she didn't, then it was fine by me. Okay. To my agent extraordinaire, mythical, heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm. Simply, Carrie nearly did a double take, clearly not expecting this. Did she think I would kick off and order her to spill the beans? I had lived a long time and knew acting impulsively would get me nowhere. It would push her away from me and everyone else. I understood she needed time and space to process things. If she needed advice from an outside source, I would be here. That's it. All you say is okay, she questioned, suspiciously. Her eyes raked over my body and face, checking for signs of deceit. When none were present, she tensed. Yes, that's it. You said you didn't want to talk about it last night and you just told me you had a bad day, so why would I need to push it? I replied, calmly. Her lips parted as if she was going to call bullshit, but she refrained herself from doing so. I stared at her in amusement, interested to see if she was going to say anything else. Right. That's right, she said instead. Clearing her throat, Carrie stepped backward, averting her eyes away from me. I'll see you around. Liberty. Bye, I said, smiling at her. I went downstairs for breakfast after that. There weren't many wolves in the dining room when I arrived. I concluded most wolves must be recovering from last night. The staff here must have cleared the room in the early hours of this morning because you would have never guessed a party was held here. The room was spotless. I grabbed a croissant and a cup of coffee and sat at my usual table. By the window, just as I bit into my croissant, a form slid into the chair next to me. Peering up, I saw Sabrina hunched over the table, her head resting on the table. A tray of fruit and water was beside her. Ugh, I feel awful, she groaned, her voice muffled. Rough night, I joked. She lifted her head slightly, giving me a better view of her pale face. She really didn't look good. You don't even want to know, she muttered, rubbing her eyes. I think I slept for 2 hours. My body's refusing to rest. Oh yeah, she repeated, slumping her shoulders. Gomez gave me some aspirin, but it hasn't kicked in yet. It feels like a million razor blades are being shoved into my head. I can't even remember what happened most of the night. I bet I did something tremendously embarrassing. I wouldn't know. I told her, pursing my lips together. I didn't see you at all last night, she commented, furrowing her eyebrows. Did you even go to the party? I did, I answered, honestly. It just wasn't my scene, so I didn't stay for very long. Plus, I felt like I was intruding. I'm not a member of this pack and that celebration was clearly a pack one. She didn't reply to my explanation. She rested her head back on the table, continuing to moan in pain. The Alpha was barely around as well. He was nowhere in sight for most of the night. She mused. Obstinately, Eden was really upset. She thought he would approach her about the lunar position. I thought about last night, specifically when I was in the garden. Alpha Gabriel was definitely the wolf hiding in the woods. There was no doubt in my mind. I had wondered why he was avoiding the party too. And now I'm finding out he spent practically the whole night somewhere else. Why? Maybe he was busy, I suggested, playing my answer off as nothing. I didn't want Sabrina to know I was intrigued by her comment. Alpha Gabriel was none of my business. Eden and I think there is something going on with him. She continued to speak, brushing my suggestion off. To my agent extraordinaire, mythical, heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm. I remained silent, eagerly listening to her words. Oh well, he's probably stressed, she mumbled and then released another groan. God, I feel like I'm dying. Drink your water, I advised her. You need to keep hydrated. Sabrina picked up the glass of water and chugged it down in one gulp. She then let out a breath of fresh air and burped. Whoops. I smiled at her and bit into my food. She continued to babble about what she could remember last night. I tried to listen to her, but I soon lost interest. Gomez entered the dining room, attracting Sabrina's attention. She threw me an apologetic look and dashed off to him. I finished my breakfast and left the dining room. Instead of heading to the library, I checked on Eden's garden. This time, I gathered a few appliances from the garden shed and started digging up the decaying flowers, replacing the patch of dirt with seeds. To my agent extraordinaire, Madeleine Nilban, heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm. That was what I felt at this moment, completely at peace. There was nobody around to distract me or stop me. I was one with nature. That was until I shoved the shovel into the ground and hit something hard. Pausing, I retraced the gardening tool and used my gloved hands to dig up the soil. My fingers wrapped around a box. Hesitantly, I lifted the box out of the mud and examined it. Inside were many Polaroids. I picked one up and inspected it. I didn't recognize the people in the picture. They were unfamiliar to me. Whoever buried this box clearly didn't want it to be found. I was intruding on something I shouldn't. All the other pictures featured the same two people, a couple I assumed, and a small cute child. I decided to put the pictures away before somebody caught me with them. I had put them all inside the box and was closing it up when a monotonous voice made me come to a halt. What are you doing? Slowly, I turned around to face the girl from last night. 11 suspicious minds. Eden stood behind me with an unimpressed expression planted on her face. Her arms were folded over her chest and her stance told me she was ready to chew my ear off. I started, stuttering pathetically. I didn't mean to dig it up. It was an accident. I swear. She inched closer to me and snatched the box out of my hands. I didn't put up a fight. Too dumbfounded to do anything. You shouldn't have looked through it, though. She snapped, holding the box close to her. I nodded my head, bowing my head in shame. Yeah, you're right. To my agent extraordinaire, Madeleine Nilban, heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm. Nosy, she finished for me, pinching her lips together in aggravation. I know. She didn't like me. That was obvious before this. And now, she probably hated me. How great. I think I'm just going to go, I muttered, rising to my feet. I averted my eyes to the ground, opting to not make awkward eye contact with her. That's a good idea, she claimed. S not till why. I scurried away, back into the house. I was in a mad rush, failing to notice my surroundings. I rounded the corner and collided with a rock-hard body. Unlike before, when I crashed into somebody, I managed to keep my footing, stumbling backward. I held onto the wall beside me for support. My green eyes drifted upwards, taking in the blue shirt that accentuated every muscle behind it, and the sharp jaw. Blue eyes that had the ability to trap me locked onto mine. Alpha Gabriel's cold gaze was surprisingly welcoming. He could look at me like I was dirt and I'd still feel happy and safe around him. Shit. Sorry, Alpha Gabriel. The words tumbling out of my mouth without a second thought. I'll watch where I'm going in the future. He was so tall I had to crane my neck to stare up at him. Don't worry about it. Liberty, he rumbled, his voice sending delightful shivers down my spine. Why were you in such a rush? I swallowed and flickered my gaze over my shoulders. I stuttered, casting my eyes back to him slowly. I was sort of digging in the garden and discovered an old box. I may have opened it and found a collection of personal pictures. Eden found me and flipped. I tried to apologize to her, but she wouldn't listen to me. He tilted his head to the side and dragged his eyes across the open plain, over towards the garden. Eden was still visible, crouching over the dirt. That box belonged to her grandparents, he revealed. It means a lot to her. I replied, awkwardly. I should get back to work. His blue eyes stared into mine for what felt like a lifetime, conveying so many emotions. It was the first time I had seen him use an emotion I could recognize. Curiosity. About me. Alpha Gabriel stepped forward, moving into my personal bubble. Had commanded my attention. Who are you? Liberty, he queried, tilting his head to the side. I opened my mouth and closed it, resembling a fish. Was he suspicious of me? Or was there more to it? I told you who I am. I'm a half-witch. I repeated again, forcing my voice to stay strong and steady. He cocked an eyebrow, scrutinizing me. It appeared he didn't completely trust me, which was interesting. He must be very good at reading people. All my lying skills had dropped. Yes, you said that. But he muttered, staring into my eyes deeply. Never mind. He walked away, leaving me utterly confused by the encounter. What was all of that about? I watched him stroll towards Eden, who was kneeling on the ground, staring at the mud. When he placed a hand on her back, I knew it was time to leave. I shouldn't watch them. It would be wrong to invade in their moment. With great reluctance, I sauntered inside and towards the library. It was practically empty to my relief. I knuckled down on another portion of the book, putting everything into it. Later, Sabrina approached me in the hallways, seeming to have recovered from her hangover. She wore a bright smile on her pretty face and had a small spring in her step. Out of everyone I had met in this pack, she was the friendliest. In 2 weeks, the Alpha will allow the pack to venture out into the human world. She squealed. To my agent extraordinaire, mythical, thanks for your unfading patience, enthusiasm. I recalled a conversation we had fairly recently, where she fired numerous questions about the human world. She was bedazzled by it and wanted to know everything about it. Oh, that's good. To my agent extraordinaire, mythical, heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm. Feigning happiness, she didn't notice my fake enthusiasm and nodded. Yeah. I want to go to a club, and I thought since you live in the human world, you could come with me. I merely did a double take. W what? She rolled her pretty brown eyes. You heard me. Gomez and Blade are acting all protective of me, ordering me not to go, but come on. This opportunity doesn't come along very often and I'm still young. Why is Beta Blade being protective of you? I questioned, furrowing my eyebrows together. Her eyes widened in shock. You didn't know he was my brother? Her revelation leaves me spluttering. If I was drinking something, I would have to spit it out all over her. They were related. They looked nothing alike. Beta Blade had frosty blue eyes and wheat blonde hair, whilst she had glossy and wavy brown hair with big almond eyes. Plus, their personalities were different. Beta Blade was hostile, untrustworthy, and rude, whilst she was quite bright and accepting. I wasn't saying either of them was a ray of sunshine, but nothing about them led me to believe they were related. People instantly knew me and my brothers were related. Not only did we look the same, but we also shared many characteristics. No, you never told me. To my agent extraordinaire, mythical, heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm. Still astounded, she shrugged her shoulders, quickly moving on. Well, to my agent extraordinaire, mythical, heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm. I need you to come with me. You know how to act around humans. Humans aren't that different. You know, they like to do things you do. If you're going to a club, they'll be drunk and will probably be dancing or flirting with some stranger. I told her, hoping this was still the case. The last time I went to a club was a long time ago. I assumed things were still the same. Still, I feel better knowing you were there, she pleaded, using her big brown eyes for effect. Sighing, I relented, knowing I'll scold myself about it later. Okay, sure, I said, and her smile widened. But that is if I'm still here by then. Her smile faltered and she knitted her big brows together. What do you mean by that? I'm only here until I've finished decoding the book. I answered, reminding her. Once I finished it, I'm out. My deal with the Alpha will be void. She mashed her plumped lips together. Deep in thought. I'm still wondering why he accepted you into the pack. I think there's more to it. So does Eden actually. Oh great. Eden has been talking about me. That was all I needed. Either way, if I'm done with the book, I'll be off. I directed the conversation back to the matter at hand. She sent me a tight, lipped smile and left. The next day, I was prepared for a quiet day, but that was not a luxury I was afforded. It started out normally. I stuck to my normal routine. I ate breakfast in the dining hall with Sabrina, who chatted away. With great difficulty, I avoided looking at Alpha Gabriel's table where Eden was sitting. After breakfast, I sat in the library for a few hours and worked on the werewolf book. The story was starting to unfold, revealing so much more. The two beings who had magically become supernatural wolves had tried to live with their secret but to no avail. That was when the fight intervened. By pure chance, my grandfather, who at the time was learning how to be king, stumbled on them. The book divulged everything. It turned out that wolves and Fi were a lot closer than I anticipated. That worried me extremely. If I handed my thorough translation over to Alpha Gabriel, he would discover the existence of my kind. Then again, hadn't we already risked that? There was a bloody gigantic painting with my grandfather's face planted on it in the dining hall, there for all to see. How come nobody had ever questioned it? Did they not know who he was? I continued to read it while sipping on my cup of tea. My grandfather had a way of finding out what they were and why they were like this. He brought them into our realm, without his father's permission. That caused an uprising in our world. Many of our people didn't like the idea of two unknown strangers entering our world. They could be a threat. Nonetheless, he was determined to help these two people who were called Diana and Torin. When my grandfather introduced them to his father, he did not receive the help he thought he could get. My great-grandfather threw them in jail and experimented on them. For many years, they lived in dire conditions whilst my grandfather snuck into cells to question them. When he was not studying or helping his father, my grandfather would try and find answers. Sometimes he would hit the library and other times he would find other means of finding answers. Just when he thought he'd never find out what they were, he found a witch in the human world. Her name was Claudia, or as I knew her, the Grand Witch. After some consideration, she chose to help. They planned to find out what the two creatures were and why they existed. It shocked me to no end to discover all of this. How come this was hidden from my family? Were my parents aware of this? That was when I stopped reading. My mind had been blown enough for one day. I needed to take a break and rest. Rubbing my eyes tiredly, I leaned back in my chair and examined the library. My eyes searched the room as a strange feeling twisted in my stomach. That was when I spotted him, a young man hiding behind a bookshelf, staring directly at me. As soon as he saw I was staring at him, he jolted away. My eyebrows knitted together. What was he doing here? Spying on me. But why? Unless... No fucking way. You have got to be kidding me. That asshole. He ordered somebody to spy on me. How long had somebody been watching me? How come I never noticed? Jumping to my feet, I tucked the two books under my arm and marched towards the man. I rounded the corner and stood in front of him, a furious expression planted on my face, genuinely believing I would hurt him. Up close, I saw how this was an incredibly young man, no older than 18. His eyes were wide with fear and his knees were shaking. "Who are you?" I demanded, narrowing my eyes at him. He didn't respond at first, possibly from utter fear. "Tell me," I commanded in a hard, firm voice. He clutched his t-shirt, trembling still. "Did Alpha Gabriel order you to spy on me?" I got straight to the point, realizing he would take a while to answer my first question. He was probably somebody starting out as a warrior or something. "I'm not going to hurt you, kid. I just need to know." His thin lips parted, but no words came out. "Nod your head if it's the truth." He frantically nodded his head. I stepped back in shock and clenched my jaw. "That asshole," I muttered to myself, The young man who was really a boy was still shaking. Petrified, I sent him a wobbly smile, hoping to show him I wasn't pissed at him. He was only following orders. Wolves can't disobey a direct order from the Alpha. It would be like going against your own soul. Where's he? He's in his office. The boy stuttered, shrinking back at the scowl on my face. He was truly terrified of me. Did he think I'd use my witch powers to curse him or something? I wasn't going to turn him into a frog if that was what he was afraid of. Thank you, I managed to say, sending him a tight smile. I then fixed my hair and stormed out of the library, past a group of elderly women who glowered at me as I passed them. Ignoring them, I headed straight for his office, ready to give him a piece of my mind. That Alpha Gabriel would soon learn that you don't spy on me. 12 won't get fooled again. Alpha Gabriel, you lied to me. I entered the room dramatically, marching towards him with a furious expression on my face. He slowly raised his eyes from the paperwork on his desk and faced me with confused eyes. It was one of the few times I had seen him with a visible emotion in his eyes. He usually hid all of his emotions. What are you talking about? Liberty. Sighing. I'm talking about you ordering some guy to spy on me. I snapped, slamming my hands on his desk. Rage filled every part of my body. I was out for blood. His eyes widened, no doubt believing I wouldn't notice the guy. Yeah, buddy. To my agent extraordinaire, mythical, heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm. Liberty. Don't liberty me, I interrupted him. To my agent extraordinaire, mythical, heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm. I thought we had an agreement, a quid pro quo. I stay here, freely, and in return, I translate the book for you. Alpha Gabriel leaned back in his fancy chair and rubbed the back of his neck. Tiredness was evident on his handsome face. If I wasn't so full of rage, I would feel sorry for him. He had no words. There is nothing he could say that would justify it. The truth was simple: he didn't trust me. I had been here a while and I hadn't made a move to prove my unworthiness of his trust. I had spent my time keeping my head down. You're an asshole. Too annoyed to even think of the repercussions. Insulting an alpha is a death wish. Did I care? Right now, no. His eyes hard and he curled his fingers together into a fist. I could see he was trying not to show his aggression. Most alphas wouldn't give it a second thought. They would attack somebody who disrespected them instantly. Don't. Liberty. He warned me. Lowly. I blanked his warning. Screw him. You're a pathetic, cold asshole who is so closed off he can't even try to trust other people. I was basically signing my death warrant. It was like there was a big sign plastered on me, screaming, "Kill me." Alpha Gabriel eased his fingers and released a deep breath. He pretended to act like none of this concerned him, even though it was clear as day that it did. I knew who he was really. He hated showing emotions. Perhaps it was because he wanted to appear as tough in front of his pack. Many alphas refuse to show any type of emotion. That's enough. Liberty. If you continue to speak to me like that, I will have to take action. He warned me, narrowing his eyes at me. His threat was not meant to be taken lightly. I snorted, letting my anger fuel me. I was going to regret it later, especially if he kicked me out of the pack. I still needed to figure out a place to go to. Many of the humans I knew were long dead. One thing was certain. I could not return to my realm. I'd rather die than marry Prince Aziel. There was nothing worse than that. I'm not going to let you bully me into pretending this never happened. You forget I'm not one of your obedient pack members. To my agent extraordinaire, mythical, heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm. Daringly, he inhaled sharply and fluttered his eyes closed momentarily. When they popped open again, I saw his grey orbs had turned black. That usually happened when the wolf was trying to take over. It meant his wolf was furious I was disrespecting him. Say one more thing, Liberty, and I'll have to lock you in the dungeons again. He threatened in a rough voice. You're a right dick. You know that. Do you not care about my privacy? I promised you I meant you no harm, yet you still made somebody spy on me. I scowled, shaking my head. Deep down, I was tremendously hurt by this. I did it because our pack isn't safe. He suddenly yelled with blazing eyes. I froze and it my mouth shut. Stunned. What? I whispered, utterly perplexed. What was he trying to say? He sighed tiredly and ran a hand through his dark brown hair. We've had 2 attacks on our pack recently. Usually, we are excellent at stopping them. However, the perpetrators were out rogues. It was only then I realized how worried he looked. I had never seen any emotion on him before, so it was hard reading him. But now I could see something was troubling him. Who has been attacking you? Treading carefully. It was witches. He looked me square in the eye and said it, believing it would mean something to me. To my agent extraordinaire, Madeline Milburn. Heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm. They believed I was a half-witch. So you had somebody spy on me because... I trailed off, making him finish it for me. I needed clarification. My pack knows what you are and I didn't want to compromise our deal, so I had a warrior follow you. He finished it for me, saying what I thought he might say. Guilt tracked through me. I had shouted at him, fully believing he was up to no good, but it was the complete opposite. Then, I wondered if there was more to what he's saying. Did he do it because he cared about me? Also, witches had been attacking this pack. When did this happen? I never noticed anything. Had they been trying to keep it a secret from me? What if they believed I was with the witches? What if Alpha Gabriel genuinely believed I was with the witches and ordered a warrior to follow me to keep an eye on me? I still couldn't completely trust him like he couldn't trust me. Do you care about me? I questioned, trying to control my voice. He stilled and slowly brought his hypnotic eyes to me. There was something swirling in those eyes I had yet to decipher. I care about our deal, he eventually said, masking all emotions once again. He wanted me to believe he cared about the book, but I had a small inkling there was more to it. Right. I cleared my throat along with my thoughts. I shouldn't think about things like that. He was a werewolf and alpha, who politically and emotionally couldn't think of me. Wolves could have relationships with people, but most didn't. Some wanted to wait for their mates. Do you really think your pack might try and hurt me? I wondered aloud, slightly fearful. I knew I could take on a werewolf with my powers, but that would expose me. I'd rather avoid that at all costs. He pursed his lips together and thought about it for a moment. Most members would never go against a direct order from me, but a few like be rebellious. I can never be 100% certain. So that meant there was a chance somebody could attack me, blaming me for the attacks on the pack. Was anybody injured? Did they have these meetings secret? I had so many questions, but asking him would make me look suspicious. I'll leave then, I muttered, embarrassed by my outburst. I would apologize if my pride would let me. I walked to the door and nearly made it out of the room before he called my name. Still, even after a while, I was affected when he called my name. It sent shivers down my spine and made my heart gallop in my chest. Do you still want somebody to guard you? Ultimately giving me the option to decide. With my back still to him, the corners of my lips crooked upwards. I appreciated him asking me this. It felt like he was giving me some control over my life. No, I don't. I glanced over my shoulder and said. I left after that, letting out a long breath. What had just happened? Why was I thinking about Alpha Gabriel caring about me? It was such a preposterous idea. I had just escaped an arranged marriage. I didn't want to get into any other difficult situation, and that was what liking him meant. It would only cause drama. I had no idea where I was going. I needed to avoid Eden at all costs. She was still not happy about me, and with good reason. I deserved her hate. Somehow, I ended up back in the dining room, which was thankfully relatively empty. I grabbed a cup of coffee from one of the machines and sat in my usual spot, staring out of the window. It was a beautiful day outside today. The sun was high in the sky and was a pastel blue. There wasn't a cloud in sight. Not for the first time. I found myself thinking about my family. What were my brothers doing? Were they worried about me? Had my parents sent out a search party for me? I expected my dad to. In his eyes, I was always his little girl. Thinking about my family made me so sad. I loved him dearly. That was when I spotted something. Behind a tree far away, I could faintly make out a face. A face I would recognize anywhere. Jumping out of my seat, I rushed out of the dining room. Ignoring the stunned faces of pack members, I flew through the pack house and outside, heading in the direction of the person. When I got there, they were gone. It made sense we were out in the open. Still undeterred, I sprinted along the path, presuming they had walked along there. At this point, I was breathless. Even that didn't stop me though. I knew what I saw. I knew who it was. The path led to a large tree. That was where he was. His back was to me, but I knew it was him. His hair was a different color in this world. Gone was his albino hair. He had brown hair. Had he used magic to change his hair color? Many Fae could do that. It was called glamoring. All Fae could do this. It was one of the most basic things. In the Fae realm, most chose not to. There was no point. To my agent extraordinaire, Madeleine Noble, heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm. In the human world, it was understandable to do this, especially if you were hiding from other supernatural. I called his name, cautiously. I didn't want to get my hopes up yet in case it wasn't him. God, I wanted it to be him so badly. He slowly spun around on the balls of his feet, revealing his sharp face. His piercing green eyes locked onto mine instantly, pinning me down. He hadn't changed anything else about him, just his hair. To some mortals, it could look unrealistic or even ethereal. I could understand why he changed his hair color. A full-blown smile slid onto my face and I lunged at him without a second thought. It was really him. My oldest brother was here in the mortal world. Liberty, slowly wrapping his arms around my dainty form. 13, that's life. Morpheus never used to be so serious. Before he was king, he was mischievous. He would never overthink doing anything. He went with what his heart wanted. Now it was his brain that made the decisions for him. I couldn't remember the last time he smiled. It must have been years ago. There was always a stoic expression on his face. The only way I could see he was released to see me was by the softness in his eyes. I hugged him for so long, relishing in his presence. It felt like centuries since I last saw him. Brother, I muttered into his shoulder, sighing in content. Sure, I miss my brothers, but I truly had no idea how much I missed them until now. When I pulled away, he stared at me with an indescribable glint in his green eyes. Enthusiasm. Libby, how can you do this to us? Do you know how worried we've been? He suddenly yelled, inching away from me. Anger was clear in his voice. My mouth hung open, in shock. I should have expected him to shout at me, though. I had done something incredibly reckless. I could have caused a war. I was all I could say as shame flowed through me. I believed I knew the consequences, but as I stared at my older brother now, I realized I hadn't truly thought about them. I had put my people in trouble too. What I had done reflected my kingdom too. How can you be so selfish? Looking at me like he didn't recognize me. That truly stung. Please, brother, you have to end once again. He interrupted me. Enough. Firmly. His voice was low, but it was powerful and final. I couldn't say anything to defend myself to tell him what Princess Eel said to me. You are going to return home with me at once and apologize to the North Kingdom. We are going to fix this mess you created. His hand wrapped around my wrist tightly. It wasn't a painful grip. I knew my brother would never intentionally hurt me, but it was one that couldn't be escaped easily. I tried to resist, but he was stronger than me. Don't try and escape this. Libby, you need to come back with me. Now, he insisted, putting me away from the pack house. I didn't know where he was leading me. Not until we reached the lake. It was the exact lake I had used to flee my realm. The one with the portal. As soon as I spotted it, I dug my heels into the ground and tugged backward with all my might. Morpheus stopped and glanced over at me with a mixture of frustration and confusion. What are you doing? Libby, he asked me, narrowing his green eyes at me. He looked so different from the brother I once remembered. I could recall days when we would sneak into different realms without our parents knowing and cause trouble. We would then return days later, laughing. They were so long ago now. A distant memory. I can't go back. I stuttered, letting the fear I felt show on my face. Just the thought of coming face with Princess Eel sent unwanted shivers down my spine. My heart stuttered in my chest and panic fluttered in my stomach. Morpheus exhaled loudly and released my hand. What are you talking about? We talked about this months ago. Marrying Aziel is your duty. You know that better than anyone. You can't just run away because you're scared. I'm not running away because of that, I retorted. To my agent extraordinaire, Madeleine Noble. Heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm. Could he not understand that there was so much more to this? I wasn't doing this on purpose. Going back to that monster would kill me. He was pure evil. He furrowed his brows together, wondering what on I was doing then. Okay, explain it to me. What the fuck were you doing then? Liberty, he said sharply, making me wince at his tone. Because I'd sure love to know why you've chosen to cause a diplomatic nightmare. I'm not doing this for the reasons you think I am. Calmly, he arched an eyebrow and made a gesture to continue, blowing out a breath. I forced myself to keep going. At the engagement party, we exchanged words and what? My brother pried. I shot him an aggravated look, silently telling him not to butt in when I was trying to speak. He told me my position. I trod cautiously, slowly drifting my eyes up to his. Unshed tears pooled in the corners of my eyes and he seemed to back off slightly. I wasn't known to cry very often. I like to present myself as somebody strong. You have no idea how cruel he is. I sniffled, wiping my nose and eyes helplessly. The words he said to me echoed in my mind. Haunting me. Show me, Morpheus demanded. Lightly, I nodded my head and stepped closer to him. He spread his hand out for me, and I hesitantly let his large hand encase my own, fluttering my eyes closed. I envisioned that night, then let the memory unfurl. It was like a television broadcast. He watched the whole scene in his own mind. Every horrible thing Prince Aziel said was made known to Morpheus. By the end, Morpheus let go of my hand and rubbed the back of his neck. His eyes flashed with uncertainty. What I had shown him changed things. I immediately knew it. Handing me over to that monster would be a lot harder now, especially now that he knew what Princess Eel wanted to do to me. Fuck, Morpheus cursed, growling furiously. Showing him this changed everything. Now you see why I can't to him, I muttered, flickering my gaze to the ground. If I do, he'll treat me like... Morpheus combed a hand through his messy brown hair. It was still strange seeing him with brown hair. Out of all of us, Morpheus was the least likely to use glamour. Shit. Liberty, he mumbled. What the fuck are we going to do now? If you truly love me, you won't let me go back to him. You know I won't survive it. I pleaded with him. Liberty. It's more complicated than that and you know it. Princess Eel and his family are going nuts. He's sending search parties everywhere. The only reason I'm here is that I went for a walk earlier and stumbled on the portal. Sooner or later, he will find it too. If he comes here, he could expose our existence. He reminded me, torn about what to do. I know that. To my agent extraordinaire, Madeleine Noble, heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm. I know, I told him in a rush, holding up my hands, but he's a monster, and I will not stand by his side and watch him cruelly rule. Morpheus threw me a disgruntled look. Why do you have to be so stubborn? I'm not stubborn. I'm just fighting for my happiness. I corrected him. Morpheus stared directly into my eyes. Seeing how honest I was being, I was going to fight him on this. If he wanted me to go back to Aziel, then I would have to be dragged there by my hair. Unconscious. Okay. Morpheus sighed. To my agent extraordinaire, Madeleine Noble, heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm. What? Needing verbal confirmation? You can stay here, he revealed, reluctantly. His face was stoic but his eyes told a different story. I can't have you going back to that monster. I love you and I don't want you to go through that pain. The corners of my lips quirked upwards. Thanks. To my agent extraordinaire, Mythical Noble. Heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm. I don't know what's going to happen with Azil though. He's pissed you humiliated him. He's threatening to start a war. I can't believe I'm putting my kingdom in danger. What kind of king am I? Instantly, my relief disappeared. Morpheus was going to have to find a way to get out of this situation. Putting my hands on his shoulders, I leveled my gaze with his. You are an amazing king. But you are also an amazing brother. It's hard separating family from your duty, but I know you will find a way to sort this out. If anyone can. Morpheus tried to lighten his expression but failed. Stress was evident around his eyes. So, are you planning to stay here for long? I wouldn't make this your permanent home if I were you, he advised, still looking out for me. I swallowed thickly and nodded my head, taking in his advice. I know. I told him. Sadly, the pack here is letting me stay for a short amount of time. We have a deal. Once I've completed my side of it, I'm going to leave. The Alpha is letting you stay. Quirking an eyebrow, he just seemed shocked at Alpha let an unknown supernatural into their territory. Yeah, I answered. Unsure, but it's only temporary. I'm going to start finding another place soon. I'll probably go somewhere human-based. Do you need any money? I'm not sure. I hadn't really thought a lot about it. I had created a bank account the first time I came here and have used it ever since. Using glamour to make myself look older. It still had a lot of money in there. Enough to last me some time at least. I'll probably be fine. Right. Well, I should get back then, Morpheus announced, casting a wary look at the lake. He didn't want to go back and face the drama again. I dreaded to think how bad it was. I definitely felt guilty for putting my family in this position. If it did come to a war, I would have to go back. I wouldn't let my people suffer like that. But for now, that wasn't the case. Morpheus could come to a solution. Saving our kingdom. I had faith he could. I'll try and visit you when I can. Hippie. Sincerely. I smiled back at him, hoping he would come again. Morpheus turned his back to me and headed towards the water. I trailed after him, keeping my distance. Try not to cause any trouble here. Half joking, I sent a playful glare his way. Yeah. I'll tone myself back. Good. And with that, he strolled into the water and disappeared. It was all so sudden. There was no evidence he was ever here. I stared at the spot he was. Miserably. I already missed it. Mustering up the energy, I forced my feet to walk away from the lake and back towards the pack house. Everyone I passed saw my devastated expression. I paid no attention to any of them though. They all began to blur into one. To my agent extraordinaire, Mythical Noble. Heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm. I passed a suspicious, looking Eden and a concerned Sabrina. Sabrina followed me up the stairs, throwing questions at me. Why do you look so upset? Did something happen? Liberty. It's nothing. I'm fine, I assured her, lying through my teeth. I hoped my lie was smooth enough. Are you sure? She continued to press, not believing me. Her brown eyes were set solely on me, attempting to decipher me. I just have a headache. I lied again, adding a reassuring smile for effect. Thanks for worrying about me though. It's nice to know somebody here cares about me. Sabrina had a mysterious smile on her face, her eyes telling me she knew something. I'm not the only one that cares. We're not your enemy. Some days it doesn't feel like that. I muttered under my breath. Eden was a prime example of somebody who acted like my enemy. She disliked me. To my agent extraordinaire, Mythical Noble. Heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm. To my agent extraordinaire, Mythical Noble. Heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm. With her super hearing, she heard me. Just because some people don't trust you, it doesn't mean they're going to attack you. Then why did Alpha Gabriel assign a warrior to follow me? I couldn't help but snap. Did she know he had done that? Sabrina's lips parted. I didn't know that. He was worried a pack member would try to do something. So yes, I think don't trust your pack either. And if your Alpha believes a pack member might hurt me, then I do too. She was speechless. It won't matter for long anyway. I'll be going once I've translated the book. I reminded her. Emotions is lie. But she stammered. Her eyes unreadable. Don't you want to stay here? Don't you like it here? It was never my intention to permanently stay here. Sabrina. I repeated what I said to my brother earlier. Plus, I wouldn't fit in here. Your pack would hate having a half, which live here. They would never accept me. She didn't say anything else. Acknowledging it was the truth. Do you consider me a friend? I assumed, wondering that was why she was acting so upset. Many of my friends from the past acted like this. They despised our goodbyes, knowing I would not see them again. I had grown used to them. She brought her brown orbs up to my face. I don't know. I guess I do. Out of everybody here, she was the nicest. She didn't mind hanging out with me and wasn't scared of the repercussions. She was close with the Alpha as well, so she knew more than most. You won't miss me, Sabrina. I comment, bleeding. People get over losing somebody. It's the circle of life. You lose friends and family and grow from it. Eventually, you learn how to live without them. Since we are barely close, she'll get over me in no time. I'd be a distant memory in no time. Whilst, I'm sure this place will hold something in my heart. I had no idea why, but I felt attached, linked to it in some way. Sabrina shook her head slightly, the thick eyebrows knitted together. You're wrong. For some reason, I feel tied to you in some sort of way. I have no way to describe it really. It's like you were destined to come into my life. To my agent extraordinaire, Madeline Nobel, heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm. Not just mine but the pack's. You're important to us. I'm sure of it. I was utterly confused by her words. What did she mean by that? But moreover, I felt panicked. Strangely, I felt similar feelings to her. Was I really destined to come here? I had no time to reply. Carrie accidentally bumped into me in the corridor, holding a pile of sheets. She instantly dropped to her knees and began picking them up. I lowered myself to and helped her. She mumbled a quiet, "Thank you," avoiding eye contact with me. I could still remember what happened at Eden's party. She was crying her eyes out about something. She wouldn't reveal what it was, not that I expected her to. But something got to her. I knew it had to be something serious for her cold, fierce facade to slip. Bye, she whispered, slipping past me with ease. I watched her fawn go, concerned about her. Sabrina watched my face. Not many people like Carrie. They think there's something off about her. She's a lot like you. I furrowed my eyebrows and glanced at her. What do you mean by that? I doubted she was like me. She definitely wasn't a Fae. She used to be a rogue. She came to our pack when she was around 12. The only reason she got to stay was that Alpha Gabriel's mom, the previous Luna, let her stay. So, a lot of people don't trust her because she wasn't born into this pack. I summarized, hitting the nail on the head it seemed. Sabrina hummed in agreement. It explained why I never saw Carrie with anyone else and why she was so closed off. Even though she had been part of this pack for a long time, she was still viewed as an outsider. People didn't trust her. Sabrina was right. We really did have something in common. That hardly seems fair. I commented, feeling bad for her. She'd had nobody. At least I still had my family. Morpheus would try and visit me often. It's just how things are. Alpha Gabriel can't really do a lot about it, she claimed, hurt and face showing a little amount of sadness for the girl. That's life.